I didn't come up with an intro this time, though.
I don't have an intro either.
That's good.
It's all right.
All right.
We'll
Let's,
we'll we'll ease into it. There you go, Misfits. It's raw. It's unfiltered. Let's roll the credits. From Sydney, Australia, all the way to Portland, USA, two misfits hang out after class to riff on the B-sides of professional life. These are your professional misfits. All the way from Sydney, Australia, I'm your host, Christopher Sellers.
from Portland, Oregon, I'm Broedy Ipox.
And we're your professional misfits, where we riff on the B-sides of professional life. Forgive the low energy intro, misfits. We're here at season 4, episode 3. Today we're talking about hype, marketing, branding, this whole mess. I'm going to be grilling Broedy for sure. We're going to break it all down. We're going to pull it apart, put it back together again, talk about everything, solve nothing, discuss the value of a personal brand, all of that. Broedy, are you ready? Have you prepared yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I took a few notes. We'll see. We'll see how far it goes against what you've got coming.
Because you were prepping yourself last episode with Linda because you knew this was coming.
I did. Yeah, I did. And there was like a particular thing that I felt like was a perfect explanation that I had found last time, and I dissected a little bit more, and I was like, yeah, I actually don't think that shit at all. So.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Misfits. So we're talking about hype, marketing, branding. Its role in the universe, because if you spend anything more than 30 seconds online, you understand that marketing, ads, all this, it's everywhere. It's billboards, it's pop-up ads, it's paid commercial advertising, it's Super Bowl ads, it's breaking it down to the LinkedIn world, it's personal brand and that cult. So the reason I wanted to discuss it is obviously I'm not a huge fan, but this is also Brody's job. It's his bread and butter. And obviously if it's everywhere, then there's money to be made. You know, there's money to be spent and there's money to be earned. So there must be a market for it. So let's break it down. Broedy, let's start with the title of this episode: hype, marketing, brand. What's the difference between the three, in your opinion?
Yeah. I think just those three in particular, because I've got my own little set over here,
Yep.
but those three. So hype is kind of in my mind the communication between the audience and the person presenting, right? Like, is it connecting? Does it connect, and is it generating some sort of response? And that can be negative hype, that can be positive hype, that can be whatever the hell you're trying to do, or it can be the exact opposite. Like, so hype is kind of the communication, right? And then marketing is the strategizing and the conceptualization in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what marketing is. And
Mm-hmm.
then branding is the image, the look, the feel, and the translation of it all. And does it work together? Like, is what I'm producing, is what I'm marketing, and is the hype that I'm generating all kind of synergetic, or is it this fucking mixed up, weird plethora of different channels and noises and efforts and all this different shit? So yeah, those three, that's how they break down for me. It's like the communication, the strategy, and then the presentation of.
So if I, just going by this example, if I understand you correctly,
Mhm.
ideally you'd run it in the opposite order. You'd have the brand first because you need the product, the person, the event, or the thing, right? So that needs to be clear. You'd build the marketing strategy around that, and then marketing would deliver the hype. Would that,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And I took
Yeah.
a quick note while you were talking that hype can, in layman's terms, be summarized as word of mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can get both positive and negative word of mouth. If it's a film launch, once people have seen it, they're like, you've got to go see Dune or not. It swings
Yeah,
both new
right.
release of a game, new release of a product, a person that might be in your network, that sort of thing. Okay. So now that was my first question. What is it? We can cross that off the list. My next question is, why is it absolutely fucking everywhere? So, and this has become my pet hate lately. And if the next thing I design is going to be a phone, an app, a web interface that does not allow any sort of paid media advertising, just like completely ad block everything, right? So, because cast your mind back to the days of Facebook. Here's a nice case study, right? It was social connections and interactions. It was keeping up with people's birthdays. It was friends and family across seas that you could stay in touch with, right? You can barely scroll 2 posts on your feed without pop up, a paid advertisement or shoved in reels and shorts, which are basically drip feed advertisements for something else somewhere.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So why is it everywhere? How have we got here? What is this mess?
Well, I mean, look at it in its nature. It's the look at me, talk about me, by me, this kind of thing. And I mean, number one, I think humans in nature are like that. And then number two, I think it's infectious, right? Like, and maybe not even in a good way, where it's like, I'm a bread vendor on the same street as another bread vendor. Okay. And he's down on the end of the street fucking screaming. He's annoying. Fuck this guy. He's just an idiot. He's in people's faces. He's like, I've got fucking bread. Come buy it. I've got hot bread. Bread. Just screaming. Fuck this guy. It's annoying. We all know it. But the thing that I start to realize is that he's selling more bread than I am. Why is that? Is it some level of advertising? Is it that he's in people's faces? Is his bread better? Is it? And then what do? By nature, you will, on your own level and what you can agree to, market yourself. That's when you put a sign outside the shop that says fresh bread. Interesting, right? Why? You think he's fucking annoying? Your sign's the same fucking thing. You're just not screaming in people's faces. And that's in my mind, like kind of in essence where it all starts, and then it fucking falls downhill, right? Like, so the dude that puts the sign out, he might actually have better bread. And the sign's all he needed. He just needed to alert people that he was there. He'll start to sell more bread than the guy on the end of the street. So what's the guy on the end of the street going to do? He's going to fucking pimp the shit out of the outside of the shop. He's going to do anything he can to out market or out fucking perform the person next to him. And, yeah, I don't know if it's so much even just competition as example of, and I think again too, people are just kind of that way. It's like, if you're not trying to grab someone's attention, I'm not thinking about you. I'm fucking sorry. I got so much shit. I was just thinking about this day. I got so much shit going on inside my noggin at fucking times that I'm like, I should be admitted. Like, and fuck your bread. I'm not going to notice your bread walking down the street unless you were to tell me about your bread. So again, I think it's kind of, we know what we are, and we know what barriers we kind of need to break to reach someone's attention. And marketing, is like the nice little word for it now, but it really, it's just fucking interaction. It's just human fucking interaction. And how am I being perceived? And it's like the manipulation and perception of. And if we have a little bit of insight into those things, again, we're humans, so I think we're going to exploit it. So that's just me in terms of why would it be everywhere, right? Like, because again, we're fighting for each other's attention all the motherfucking time, all the time, and people are using different angles, whether that's food, or entertainment or sexuality or
Or straight up
conflict,
services. Yeah, yeah,
whatever it is. And, you know, the first motherfucker that was on the corner that was like, hey, come buy the bread, he really fucked shit up for everybody else. Because now we all got to fucking yell at the corner.
Well, okay, I guess that ties into the deeper question of this episode, perhaps, and if Misfits at home might be wondering, like, why are we talking about this? Um, I I guess for me is to explore what is almost necessary evil in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you make a noble cause of, oh, like two bread bakers, oh, local community, da 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 da, sure, but that's not pop-up ads on an article that, you know, I just want to read the article. That's not a break in
Right.
the YouTube video every minute for 90 seconds worth of ads, you
Right.
know, like this sort of thing. And I think we can all identify that it's like a slow boiling frog. It's inched up over time, but across every platform. You can't download a game or an application on your phone without knowing, I'm trading all of my information to whoever it is, and that's the back end of marketing. Let's not lie, kids. Like, we all know, as well as getting spammed with dating apps, gaming apps, whatever other, like, marketing for other things. So the, like, I want to ask, like, do we need it? I know we do in some capacity. Like, you make a very simple case of, like, two bakers, both
Mm-hmm.
bake bread. One guy's in the corner saying world's best bread. You know, now it forces you to make a decision. Like, is it? Do I have to try it for myself to find out? Or, two silent bakers, one of them is going to aim for a trade-off.
Right.
Um, so I guess, like,
Can we get
do we?
away with not having it?
Well, no. Well, okay. Do we need it? Like, I know we do, but I want to hear you make the case for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say yes because look, it's kind of the explanation that I gave about. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. This is actually what I wanted to ask specifically. It's like, do
Okay.
we need it, or can we live in Chris's little ideal fantasy world where, if the bread is good enough, if the product is good enough, if your service is good enough, if you are good enough, people will recognize your quality over, the hawker on the street and choose that instead. I am aware this is idealistic, but this is if there were two roads that diverged in a wood, see, I'd always lean that way. And if I'm honest, I've probably been wrong most of the time, and I still
Mhm.
lean this way because I'm like, I don't want to be sold. I don't want to sell to. I want people to identify quality and value and want that. It's probably part of the reason why I hate LinkedIn, is because it doesn't play the game the way I want it to be played, and I get no engagement and no traction despite whatever feedback. You know what I mean? So
I do. I do.
so can are they mutually exclusive? Can you have a great product with an equitable pitch, or is good marketing always going to be able to sell shit?
Well, I mean, don't ask it like that because yes, I mean, good marketing is always going to be able to sell shit. I promise you.
Mm.
There's a creative way. I mean, dude, I had it written down, not in these notes. These are new notes, Misfits.
Okay.
I kind of went through a revision coming to this episode, but there was a fucking company that sold a box of rocks. I mean, like literally, it was just a cardboard box
Yeah.
and rocks. But here, okay, to the episode, right? Just like we were talking about branding, box of rocks. It was something about childhood best friend. We all fucking had a little rock or some fucking stick or a leaf or a tree that at some point we fucking talked to. So it fucking there's that, right? You got the nostalgic brand. It's already fucking pinned. It's already made. And then number two, the marketing. The marketing was ridiculous. It was everywhere. It was on Facebook. It was on Instagram. It was everywhere, right? Covered. And then three, you have the hype. People fucking hyping up a box of rocks. I mean, it literally is worthless. It's actually worthless, and motherfuckers paid for this shit to be shipped to their fucking house. Same thing. The other example that I saw too was this motherfucker on TikTok made a steel press for ice cubes in the shape of a hot dog. Okay. Now, cool. That's great, right? Ice cubes in the shape of a hot dog. He then boiled fucking like 10 million fucking hot dogs and took the water, the hot dog water, and made hot dog ice cubes, hot dog water ice cubes. Then he put the ice cube in a fucking airtight jar and wrote on it, unrefrigerated hot dog ice cube. He's fucking sold like hundreds of these things. Hundreds. Hundreds. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing that I'm talking about. So yes, I think marketing could sell fucking dog shit. I've watched it happen. I think humans, as much as I love them and I think they are amazing, we in some of our fucking forms are just the simplest fucking creatures, and we're so easy to fucking tap into. The other side of that I do really want to touch on, and you're like, make the case for it. It's funny too, because in my mind, I don't know if you can kind of separate word of mouth and hype from marketing, because to some degree, the baker that knows his bread is a solid fucking product as opposed to the dickhead down the fucking street. Like in my example, really all he had to do was put out a sign. That's all he had to do. He doesn't have to pitch to you. He just has to let you know he's there.
We got bread.
And then yep. And then this fucking asshole down the street that's selling fucking 3 loaves for fucking $5. You go, God, that's fucking weird. This motherfucker's bread over here is $5 for 1 loaf. I gotta fucking see what's up with that. You go buy the $5 loaf and you understand why. You understand why, and you come back for the $5 loaf every motherfucking time. It's yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. So I think there's like certain fundamentals of marketing and kind of communication that you can't rip from each other. So it's hard to say, could we do without it? Could we really do away with any form of it? Could it just be that I have the baker shop, but I have to write baker shop on the outside of the door? I have to. I have to. I do. And if I don't, I have to leave my door open so people can smell the baking, smell me baking. That's marketing, motherfucker. Don't even get it twisted. Don't, if you're in a prime fucking location, you leave your fucking window open when you've got a fucking fresh batch of fucking cookies or some shit in there. That's marketing. Okay. That's marketing. So I personally don't think you could do away with it, but I think that in its simplest form, it doesn't have to be so fucking invasive. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's
point.
my explanation to it. I think it's just over the fucking years, access to each other has become so much broader that it's just exacerbated that issue. I can put baker shop everywhere now. I don't just put it on the front of my door. I put it on my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook, my YouTube. I put it on my business card. I put it on my van. I put it. You just put it fucking everywhere, and again, it's one of the things that I was saying earlier. I wonder too if it's like kind of this almost egotistical like pride thing more than it actually is the need for someone to know of your business or understand your business. Because it's like, I think you bring up a very valid point. A lot of it is fucking invasive. There's no marketer could fucking explain that away. It's fucking garbage, the fucking links some people will go to get an ad in your fucking face. Like you said, I'll take all your information, I'll send it to your fucking Facebook, I'll send it to your all your other social channels, I'll send it to your email, I'll send it to your text message, I'll send it anywhere I can get it to shove it down your fucking throat. And that's not what I think good marketing is. So yeah, that's that for me.
Pause there for a minute. We're gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to edit this part. There's something with your mic levels because you sometimes when you lead all the way in, I put it in the chat, but like sometimes it's really muffled on audio, and it's
Oh, my fucking monitor went all the way up. Okay, so when I'm at this level, is this good now?
perfect. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
cool. Um,
And I will
all right,
edit that out, and I will be able to bring my levels down, so we're
cool.
good. I'm gonna let me
Good.
real quick. I just want to write a note. 20 minutes.
Yeah, good catch.
Cool. Okay.
All right, so on that point of it being invasive, I get it, and it's funny because it's not solely the marketer's responsibility. Because I think if we look at the landscape, we take the Facebook example from earlier. Like Facebook was one platform, one social platform. And then you've got something like LinkedIn, which is sliding that way very, very quickly. Then you look at all the proliferation of any other social platform, any other professional platform, any news platform where you read articles, read blogs, all of this sort of stuff. Any of these platforms or apps which are offered for free, like that's sort of the carrot or the sign up, but their business model is contingent on getting eyeballs on content to sell space. Like you could easily argue that this is just a mass-produced, scaled up, like X1000 version of commercial television. Put on a good show that people are going to watch on a Friday, Saturday night. Sell a premium for ads on those shows.
Solid analogy. Yeah,
Right. So,
absolutely.
it's always been around. You make the point of it being invasive, and this is the difference because at least with television, which is still only recently new, 1940s, 1950s, home televisions, so sub 100 years. But we've become conditioned that there's a set ad break so I can tune in and out. I can come back to my show, right? Modern times, modern platforms, and with everyone with a phone in their pocket, there's no downtime or
Mhm.
less, unless you're extraordinarily disciplined and spend like less time at the screen, less time on your phone, right? Which is the healthiest choice that all of us can make, let me tell you. But I guess what you're making the case that it can be done well. And my next question here on my list then is like, if it's everywhere, why does it all suck? Like 99% of ads, content, marketing, commercials, you name it, it's just cheap fucking trash. And now with the advent of AI, it's cheaper, faster trash. So, I'm coming at this as a creative, you know what I mean? And I know how to write story and everything else. Like, yeah, I'll get to Australian ads in a minute, but they're just fucking terrible. But if there's one thing that Americans seem to do well, is market commercially.
Yeah. Well, okay. Look, I'll answer it this way. I think the 90% that you see that's just that watered down trash that
Yeah,
everyone imagines, right? Like whether it's that Facebook ad that pops up and it's some fucking pool cleaner for a state you don't live in, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, wow, how the motherfucker missed this, like what was the intention here? I think it's a lot of, I don't know how to put this. I think people believe that marketing and all that kind of stuff is just the guy on the corner screaming, and that's what
Mm,
they do. That's what they
mm-hmm.
do. So they find the tools that allow them to do that simply and easy. And there's a lot of cookie cutter shit that you can see because they're all using the same tools and processes and things like that. I just
And
look.
it's cheap now. I
Mhm.
guess like in this discussion was I'm skipping over one of the massive positives is that if you're a small business or an individual or a consultant, and particularly Facebook and LinkedIn live for this shit, because there's so many like pitching towards like, oh, you're a solo professional, you're a solopreneur. Here's a platform that you can use for free. Here you can create content for free. You can
Yeah.
market yourself for free. You can demonstrate your value for free. So, in theory and in practice, because we've had some guests on here. Tony Albrecht's a great example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has built a very successful business pitching content marketing and personal branding specifically to lawyers and those in
Yep.
the legal profession. He's an ex-lawyer himself,
And he does it
and
well. Yeah.
he has, and that's in under a year made an incredibly profitable business and enjoying his work from where he was. So it can be done, and I've been to a ton of conferences where any professional speaker leverages these platforms, leverages Insta, TikTok, these sort of things to give clips. So all of this is free social marketing, and when used judiciously, creates a presence for themselves. So if somebody is looking for them, they can easily find them, get access to them, understand what they're about and what they do, right? And this is an opportunity that has never before existed, because what mainstream media or even print media were really your only two options prior to this.
And those were expensive.
Correct.
You nailed it. I mean, like that's one of the things, and it kind of like goes back to like technology giving that new level of access to the
Yeah.
to the consumer or to the audience or however you want to shape it.
A, a democratization of marketing.
Yeah, yeah, really though. And I think that's part of it too, you know. So like when you look at here, I'll even use like an example as an ad. When you look at a ad for Vans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the dude's rocking the Vans. I mean, he's rocking the fuck out of those. He looks phenomenal. He looks great, right? And then the masses get a hold of Vans, and there's about fucking 1% of them that look good, like the guy in the poster
Mm.
in Vans. And I think it's kind of the same thing as marketing, right? Like before, it was so out of reach for so many people, businesses, avenues,
Mm-hmm.
fucking influencers, whatever you want to do. It was out of reach. I got to take an ad out in the newspaper, a billboard, or a article, newspaper, these kind of things. It's just,
Yeah.
and then if not, I've got to look at radio space. I've got to look at TV
Yeah.
space, which that was impossible too. Cause there was I mean, at least here in the US, there's kind
Yeah.
of like, there's like a hierarchy, right? Like, and if you're not shit, you're not going to get the space, even if you had the money, right? You know, cause someone could come in for fucking half the price. And because it's
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, they're going to give them the ad.
It also underlines this shift in work culture as well, like the ability to work for oneself beforehand was nigh and impossible, because like where unless you're incredibly fortunate or worked in some niche fields, like where would you have the resources to promote yourself like that?
Well, that's what I was going to
You
say
know?
too. Is like if you look at it too with the access, right? When you think about it now, because of what it's given people access to, it has also given people access to, just like you're talking about, new opportunities. Because before,
Mm.
again, if I had started a business, I could have likely started a business. I could have gone and got a couple lawnmowers or a couple weed whackers, and I could have done it, right? I could have
Mm.
knocked on the doors. I really back then it wasn't as impossible, I think, as it was perceived, but it was much, much, much fucking harder to be
Yeah.
successful at it,
Yeah.
right? Because it is the loudspeaker and the megahorn motherfucker that's going to get the sales. So
Mm.
it's if you don't have resources to those avenues, you're hurting, right? And that's where
You
I
can never
think
really
it's
compete in that level. Yeah.
right, and that's where I think this, to answer the first question, is where the oversaturation comes from. Is like the gates are now open, right?
Well, yeah, I think we're heading there. It's like, look, democratization of some things is great, but by lowering the bar for everyone, you lower the bar
You
for
lower the
everyone.
bar. Yep.
So,
Yep.
and that's sort of the trade-off. And then if we look at the landscape, Facebook marketing back 5-10 years may have been very, very effective because would have been less competition for you and whatever it is that you were doing. It might have been a bit pricier, but it was still direct access to the people that you want to talk to. Now, all online media is incredibly cheap. Incredibly cheap. And is only going to get cheaper,
Yep.
really. So platforms, and I think it's an interesting tipping point, and this is probably why it's really been grating on me lately, is platforms are going to have to figure out like their tipping point and sort of what their churn rate is. Because if advertising is getting cheaper, which means more people want to use your platform to advertise, that's sort of a positive for the platform, but you need to keep bringing in volume if your prices keep dropping to be competitive. So the one person you're not thinking about is the user, is me watching the video, is the person on the phone going like, I don't want these ads. And even if I do want one ad, I don't want 5 of the same ad, you know. Wix in particular is really, 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 really pissing me off because, fun fact, we use Wix. I built the professional Misfits website with Wix. Great.
Phenomenal
We've got
looking
a
site, by the way.
subscription. Yeah, great, done. I don't need every first ad on YouTube to be Wix telling me,
I already
right?
have
Telling
it.
me,
I already
right.
have it. Yeah. So look, I want to say this. I think that's the thing too. I think in the beginning there were some fundamentals, right? And it was be the guy in the corner. Repetition is key,
Mm-hmm.
and image is everything. So
Mm-hmm.
then again, now we get to the point where the gates are open and tools are coming on so quickly and consistently, like it's every day there's something else that you can do or achieve with
Mm-hmm.
AI or the next editing program or blah blah blah. So I think realistically what's happened is people have taken the fundamentals. I mean, they get it. They get the
Yeah.
fundamentals, but they don't get it in application, right? And it's just like you talked about. The thing about the fundamentals back then was when McDonald's said we need to be on every corner, it was subtle. Okay. It was fucking subtle. They might have had a billboard every fucking 5-10 miles. But again, you weren't looking every 5-10 miles and seeing that billboard and going, holy fuck, McDonald's is annoying the shit out of me.
Mm.
It was subtle. It didn't fucking slam you in the face. It didn't take up space in your personal bubble, right? Like, yeah, it was in my fucking peripheral view, but that's again, in my mind, good marketing,
Well,
right?
okay.
Like,
Here we go. Here's where I dig my heels in.
okay, okay,
Because here we go. Let's take LinkedIn.
okay.
Let's take me on LinkedIn. And you know the sort of stuff that I post. You know, I
Mhm.
post reasonably consistently. I never post 10 top tips on like fucking whatever. It's a combination of sort of social posts and this is what's going on in my life and this is what we're building, a little bit of Misfits, and then mostly about this is how creativity applies in corporate spaces. This is why you're mostly confused and losing a lot of money with the way you approach innovation and R&D and these sorts of things. Um, I will I only post once a day, if that. Let's say
Mhm.
4 or 5 times a week, right? And I know because of my time zone and a few other things, I'm probably not hitting peak times for the LinkedIn algorithm. So my engagement, like if I'm selling me as a service,
Mhm.
then number one, algorithm says no for whatever reason, because wrong time zone, wrong place. And I don't know, just doesn't like me or what have you. And because the other catch is, every algorithm wants you to play a certain game. Are you going to spend an hour on before you post to sort of warm the algorithm to tell you you're here? When your post goes live, are you going to spend another hour on like doing comments? And so that's 2-ish hours you need to commit per day for one post, in
For
theory.
one post.
For one post, in theory. Then
Yep.
you've got folks who will 2-3 times a day.
Yep.
Right. Now, if you want an equivalent, that's sort of the guy on the corner of the street yelling about hot
Yes,
bread.
it is.
Whereas I'm more like, doors open, bakery's here, we make quality, da-da. And you and I can testify to the fact that my engagement or leads or bookings from LinkedIn are nigh on abysmal compared to the impression of what other people are doing. You know? So this is this goes back to my earlier idealistic thing. It's like, I'm not going to compromise on quality and go, hey, I love coffee. Do you love coffee? And then play this shit for engagement. I want to turn out quality, but consistently turning out quality in my way, in my style, doesn't drive satisfactory business. And brass tacks of marketing is, it's not impressions, it's not leads, it's revenue. So I could put my hand up and go, I fail at LinkedIn for those reasons. Yeah. So that's why I challenge it in my particular case.
Yeah, I mean, but as somebody who's really fucking honest about marketing and social media and organic presences, you're that's the thing. Look, that's the thing. I mean, I would vote to have a presence, content, and strategy like yours, as opposed to something like the guy on the corner. I mean, because really, I mean, we all see him too, and it's like you're talking about. Yes, I know, I'm aware, and that's such a shitty answer. It's like because I'm not hitting on the, well, where's my revenue, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, what I'm trying to say is, I think even, and we've talked about this a little bit with the podcast. I think even with ventures like that, it's how am I trying to put this? It's not change up completely. Like, I'm not saying look at your content or look at the way you're doing things and completely play to the out. Because look, we've had the conversation. Sometimes, for all intents and purposes, you do, right? Like you'll put the carousel up when carousels are working well, or blah 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 blah.
No, they're
But
not. They're
right,
dead as a thing. Even anyway, whatever. Yeah. Video was hot for a minute because they were trying to do TikTok, and then
yeah,
they like cut the legs out from underneath that as well. So it's image and text post.
yeah, and look, I would argue that what you see as the successes are truly the 1% of all of the other efforts that don't work, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I dug hard enough, I bet you I could find another Tony Albrecht. I bet you I could find another person marketing to lawyers about a personal brand and blah blah blah. And that's not to say or take anything away from Tony. That's
No,
just to
I
say
use his as an example specifically of like two guys
of
in the
his
same
success.
space trying to operate in a similar way,
Yep.
and Tony having much more success than
Right.
someone like me, and
Right.
that's probably got a lot to do with my attitude and approach to marketing in general, or the fact that I'm missing something. And I also know, and I also do know that he has probably studied and researched a little bit more and put the time in there, and even like invested like a few hundred here or there to buy a course, to do a thing, to follow the template and the formula. Whereas I'm straight up like, nah, fuck that. Like, I'm creative, I can wing it, or or I can map it out and I can write anything and da 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 da. And yes, that's true, but still, the results speak. I mean, I don't have 50 leads in the inbox going, wow, that was amazing. How did you do that card trick? Come talk to my executive team. you know?
Yeah, but you know what? And again, this isn't knocking anyone in particular, but if you were to actually ask them, really, honestly, give me your true conversions. It is not going to be what you think, Chris. I mean, and look at it. We've talked about this, and this is something that I really like to say to the Misfits is like, in context, success is very fucking easy to portray, right? And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is like, look, you can have the fucking 2-3 years of fucking dead air, and then you can bring on 2 to 3 clients. That's it. That's it. And that can be your level of success that most people will never see in their whole fucking lives. And again, what's really interesting about that kind of path is like it's interesting. You bring on the one, you generally get number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to me, that's where you're at, right? Like, and this is why I say I would prefer a brand like yours as opposed to something that's more tailored or commercialized,
Mm.
because I don't think even in those situations that you're reaching a higher churn, you are retaining or receiving people at a level that we all really intimately want, and that's the perfect client. That's the
Mm.
best scenario. That's the I love the work I'm doing. I'm sure there's a bunch of motherfucking shit and people that these guys are fucking successful that are working with that they fucking just dread working with.
And there's one positive out of this as well, is that um, mine's a particular niche anyway, but the contacts and connections that I have made via LinkedIn, you're one of them, and probably 80%, 90% of the guests that we've had on this podcast have come from my relationships with people with LinkedIn. So on the one hand, I can look at it and go, my marketing efforts are not profitable or cost effective in any way. However, the credible relationships that I built with other professionals and the handful of other professionals that do want to work with me or pick my brain on something or come have them speak or design like whatever for them, that's that's specific. And I think if you've listened to any of the episodes with a guest, you can tell that there's a history and a respect and an intelligence there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not 50,000 rabid followers who just,
Right,
you
and
know,
some of these people, some of the guests too. It's our first time, not first time talking to them, but first time in a kind of in person scenario
yeah,
that
yeah.
we're
Tyler,
interacting with
Tyler,
them.
been friends with like for about a year, and like getting him on the pod was the first time actually face to face.
Yeah,
Casey, who we're going to have later, she's got a PhD on psychology and stuff like that. Even when I did, yeah, she'll be another one. But there's been a couple. There's been a couple. It's a very good point. There's one thing I want to ask in reference to us before I moved on to my last little point on personal branding. But like, if understanding the importance of marketing and understand you need to have some sort of signpost and all this sort of thing, and this being your jam, explain then to the Misfits
mm-hmm.
why and how we made the choice not to spend a cent on marketing this podcast.
Yeah.
Because so for the Misfits at home, look, if you go to our YouTube channel right now, we might have like 83 subscribers total. That doesn't account to watch hours and metrics and impressions and all those sorts of things. But in the world of metric and subscribers and followership and yeah, followership, sub 100 isn't sexy, right? But and the easiest way to cheat all of that is to pay for engagement or to run an advertising campaign, use that spend to be justified against the potential revenue that it will bring in. So gamble that spend on whatever you might get back in and sort of play that game, which is what a lot of people do. You know, if I spend $5,000 now, it's going to bring in 10 grand worth of revenue for sure. And that, yeah, but we chose not to do that. So if you're the marketing guy and you're making the marketing pitch, but we're not marketing per se, or we're not paying to market. Why is that?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, so, I mean, I kind of have two ways to answer this question. And the first kind of is and look, we all know this too. It's the exact thing that we experience on Facebook. So you come across Facebook and there might be an ad in some kind of vein of something you were talking about, interacting with, or blah, 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 right? And you happen to fucking click on it and it's a piece of shit. You buy it, you're sold on it, fucking took 2 seconds. It was there. It was convenient. It worked, right? It worked. Um, the dissatisfaction that follows that for a lot of companies will see them at their fall. Like that is 9 times out of 10. That's all you need is one person to say this shit sucks ass. Don't fucking buy it. That's marketing as well, right? And look, I don't want to put us in a situation where I'm falsely advertising something to people just for the sake of those metrics. That's 9 times out of 10 people. If you're being sold by any marketing agency, if you've got somebody around you that's a social media expert and is just trying to fucking convince you that the reach is the most important thing, they know how easy it is to play with that number. That's what that is, right? And I guess the second way that I'd look at this too is the reason that we didn't, I think I think on the outside in, just like you were talking about with the 83 followers, it's like it's not sexy, right? It's not. But when you look at a YouTube channel, a TikTok channel, what have you, right? And you can visibly tell they've used paid marketing to get to 15,000 followers, to get to 100,000 views on one post, right? And I know for a motherfucking fact, I will call everybody out that listens to this and I'll clip it and put it on TikTok. When you go to that fucking profile and every other piece of content has 10 fucking views, you instantly lose all desire to relate to anything that this motherfucker is pitching
Like
because
any
they just,
credibility,
yeah,
any, yeah.
credibility. That perfect. A lot of people want to talk about social credibility. And then again, somebody in the comments is going to be like, yeah, well, you've got 83 followers. It's like, yeah, motherfucker. And I can show you 100,000 fucking impressions from 83 fucking followers when you have 10,000 followers and you can't get to fucking 5 fucking impressions. Why is
And
that? Why
yeah,
is that?
and it's interesting because we've got a bit more of a spread as well. So we've got, I mean, YouTube as an example, that's that. There's about 200 and something on Spotify. So if you're savvy, you understand that if an audience who is watching on YouTube is not the same audience who is listening on Spotify. There's about 300 in the LinkedIn group. There's about another 100 and something in the Facebook group. So those are two separate pools. So they're spread around. But we would know that, and unless you're a dedicated misfit, you're not going to go looking for that information. You know, it's that snapshot of like how many followers, how many comments, how many likes. Oh, they must be popular or they're not. And and I think that's the game of marketing, is what we're sort of talking about. Like it's the fragile psychology that humans so often fall for. You know, like you walk past the club and there's a line out the door, so you assume, fuck, must be pumping, must be a hot joint. You look at the profile on LinkedIn, he's got 15,000 followers. And you're like, fuck, I've got 2.5. You know, it's that. We're old enough and wise enough now, and we've been indoctrinated in social media long enough now to know that there's a million ways to play this game, to beg, borrow, buy, and steal, like this impression of
Yep.
influence, of
Why do
credibility.
you think they're called impressions? I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
Come on, people. I mean, on fucking 9 out of 10 platforms, they are actually legitimately, go look at your analytics, called impressions, right? Because that's what they're guaranteeing you. That is just like that is all they are guaranteeing you, though. And as much as An impression can convert, and an impression can sell. It's not the fucking number of them that's doing that. It's the fucking quality of the content. It's the person representing the fucking product, service, whatever the fuck it is, right? And if you don't have more than one piece, you're just like everybody else. You're just fucking doing the same shit that everybody else is while calling it marketing. And that kind of like segues to like the thing that I wanted to read for you. This is something that I found this is probably a year or two ago, and it was actually interesting because it was right before it was really popular, and then it fucking circulated this year on TikTok again. I'm on business feeds and shit like that, so that's why I would see this. But it says a circus is coming to town, and you put up a sign. That's advertising. Yep. If you put the sign on an elephant and walk it through town, that's promotion. If the elephant walks through the mayor's flower bed and the local paper writes a story, that's publicity. If you get the mayor to laugh and talk about it, that's public relations. If you tell them about the various booths and entertainments you'll have, answer questions and build rapport, that's sales. If you plan the entire thing with intention, that's marketing. And that's really the way that I look at it and kind of approach the whole thing is like marketing is a holistic thing. It encompasses so much more than an individual effort or piece of content itself even. And that's why too, when I gave the examples in the beginning of hype marketing and personal branding, that's all you're trying to do. And you said that really well. It's like I'm just trying to, in the most eloquent and efficient way in my environment and scenario to my audience, write bake shop that fucking translates perfectly. Everyone that sees it loves the way that it looks. Everyone that walks by understands what it means, and it does what I need it to do. It tells people I'm here. And I think again, there's so many ways and avenues to do that without having to spend money. Just for our particular example, I think too, one thing that it really does is it waters down all the results you get after. I think anytime you put money into ads, you get this convoluted sense of self that those impressions are yours, this sounds shitty, but that you're deserving. And I'm going to be honest with you, you're not. You're not.
Well, that's I was gonna say that's a nice place to wrap up. But I think the moral here as well is like what we were talking about specifically here in the Misfits, folks, is if you look at our 83 subscribers and our 300 here and our 200 there and whatever community that we've built for ourselves over the last year, and then all the impressions and the analytics behind the scenes and business leads and sort of everything else, when you amass that together, and then our sort of killer hook is we didn't spend a cent on advertising. And that's when every client says, how?
Yep.
How do you get this engagement consistently? How do you get a community that's been growing consistently? How do you like improve the back end metrics that matter of like watch time, of engagement, of like all that that followership, which is credible, because we over a shorter amount of time than many of the podcasts or clients or businesses that come to us, because they've tried it 2 or 3 times before, spent tens, sometimes multiple tens of thousands. Broedy always blows me away because I can't believe people would spend that sort of money, and we're, I'm frustrated when doing it with nothing. But anyway, I'd be more frustrated if we'd spent 50 grand and had the same result. So
Which Misfits, I won't call any of my past clients out. The 50 grand he's talking, that's an actual budget I have told Chris about. 50 grand that someone spent to build a media, it was considered a media project for marketing, right? It was for marketing. And I've never seen something flop so fucking hard in my life.
So the moral here, Misfits, is you can spend 50 grand for posters, or you can spend 50 grand to make great bread. You get to choose. You get to choose. I think that's a nice place to land. Is that a decent summary for a guy that hates marketing?
Yeah. Hey, and look, you know what's funny too is I'll say this at the end of the episode. I don't actually think you hate marketing so much. I think that you see it for what it is, and then it gets really, really hard, right? It gets really hard for anybody once you see the grander picture to play the game, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm built for it. But
Not a
that's why I
lot of
love the
us
sales
are.
tip. Yeah. All right. What do you think, Misfits? Do you love marketing? Do you hate it? Are you a personal brand advocate? We might save that for another episode because we didn't get there today. Let us know in the comments. Broedy will answer all of your questions. So that wraps up episode 3. Episode 4. Do you know what's coming up?
I mean, I feel like I should because
You should.
did we already record it? Like,
You may have. Oh, shh, don't give away the secret sauce. Everything's recorded live, in sequence.
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So episode 4, funnily enough, is in line with personal branding. We're talking about the Misfit dress code. Misfits. Does first impressions matter? Does your dress style, the way you present yourself, labels, all of that, does it matter? Should it matter? Is it professionally relevant? Broedy, do you have any hot takes of what's to come in episode 4, which we definitely haven't recorded yet?
I'm just pissed because I know what's to come, and then I'm here and we're talking about it, and I'm in a dad sweatshirt and a.
You can't get away from it. You are a dad.
Yeah.
So look forward to that, Misfits. And you can listen to all of the episodes 2 weeks in advance by joining us at Camp Misfit. The link is in the description. You can go to promisfitspodcast.com and you can check out all of the resources to build your own podcast. Or if you want some professional help building your channel, you can find everything there. You can find the Misfit entree, the main, and the banquet. You come talk to us, either of us, on LinkedIn. You know where to find us. You can listen for free and you can watch us build. That's about it. That's all the plugs. In the meantime, I've been Chris.
I've been Broedy.
And you stay classy, Misfits. Dress well. We'll see you on the next one.